parade today, it's not in its great splendor in terms of being open to the public as such. So we don't expect to see great numbers gathered around because of the rules that govern the COVID pandemic. But this year, it's very good that we were able to put on this activity in light of the fact that last year we were not able to do so. Major League, what are your views?
Well, it's an expression that we are attempting to keep hope alive. I've joined the Defense Force way back in 1960, and I can't remember any time when we were not able to put on the Queen's Birthday Parade. I know that in 1960, for instance, we had what we refer to as the Plymouth Fire when the Defense Force headquarters on George Street was destroyed in January 6th. Instruments and weapons were all destroyed, and because the Queen was visiting in February of that year, all those instruments and things were replaced, so therefore we did not have a break.
Indeed, indeed. Well, what we see happening here on Sterling Park, we're just seeing the arrival of the Honorable Premier onto the parade grounds. Unusual for this year, he's driven as close as possible to the area where he'll be taking his salute. I think he has a damaged leg that has been publicly announced. So anything that would reduce the amount of walking he has to do as an individual. So we now recognize the arrival of the Premier, and he will make his way to the dais while one of the ushers
shoulder arms
Taylor to her seat. So the Premier is now making his way to the dais, escorted by the commanding officer of the Royal Defense Force and the acting commissioner of the Royal Montserrat Police Service. His ADC for today is President Williams. So
General salute. Present arms.
And there we have the present arms given, and the Montserrat flag is now unfurled.
Shoulder arms. God, Uda arms.
To the Honorable Premier, the flag is unfurled, and he's now going to step down from the dais and make his way to his seat in the covered area. And next thing to see in just a few moments will be the arrival
stand at ease.
Governor. So, Major, looking at the small version of what you're accustomed to, as you said, you have been around this thing since 1966. The fact that we put on something this year, have your views? Yes.
As I've expressed earlier, it's an expression of our decision or determination to keep hope alive. We have been affected by this coronavirus for the last 2 years, so to speak, and we are facing what we refer to as a new normal, and we have to prepare ourselves in order to fit into what is about to take place in the near future. Today we are at Sailing Park. It's pretty dry, not as green and luscious as we have accustomed to seeing it. Secondly, we are broadcasting from a different vantage point. Normally we are facing southeast. Today we are facing southwest, so we are actually seeing a bit of the Caribbean Sea, which is very calm. It is not as dry in Salem as it is further north, because whereas we have not been getting any rain at all in the north, Salem have been lucky enough to get a few now and then. So they have a sprinkling of green here and there, but by and large, the country is very dry at this point in time.
Okay, thank you very much, Major. We now recognize the arrival of His Excellency the Governor, Andrew Pace, and Miss Reese Pace. The usher is now escorting Miss Reese Pace to her seat under the covered area. And the head of units, the Acting Commissioner, Mr. Charles Thompson, and Major Alvin Ryan, they met and greet the Governor and explained to him what is expected of him. The Governor's ADC today is Second Lieutenant Calvin White, And the party now makes
Guard!
their way.
Shoulder!
Yes.
Arms!
The parade commander, Captain Colin Fergus, ED, CCM. He's ably assisted by his second in command, Lieutenant Glenroy Foster.
Guard! General salute! Present! Arms! Guard! Shoulder! Arms!
As I said before,
Guard!
the music
Uda! Arms!
the PA system, as we do not have a live band on parade today. Normally we would have music from one of the visiting bands. As a matter of fact, going back to a program that was started.
Good morning, Your
2 years
Excellency.
ago, the formation of the Montserrat Community
On
Band
parade this morning, one
Royal
unit of
Montserrat
the Royal
Defence
Montserrat Defence Force,
coordinated
one unit
by our
of the Royal
officers
Montserrat
and
Police Service,
responded
one
to
unit
have a music-
of the
and a music
Montserrat
program
Cadet
going.
Corps,
It was
all
not very
awaiting your
full,
review, sir.
But pause to that. We were hoping that that unit would have been on parade last year, and of course this year, and in Grand Fine in June for next year. Barbuda Defense.
I trust that you found everything in order, sir.
We are known to have a big thing, especially when we are visiting troops. But
Thank you very much, sir. Permission to continue the parade, including
Certainly,
the
parade
feu
like
de
this is
joie
what, the people
and the
come out to
announcement
watch,
of
especially
awards.
when you have a very active band. You know, it gives you a sense
Very well,
of
sir.
pride and patriotism watching your troops drill. Unfortunately, we're not able to present this to you this year, but as I've mentioned earlier, it's an expression to keep hope alive for what we expect for the future.
indeed, indeed, indeed. And as the parade moves along, His Excellency
Guard of honor!
the DS
Guard of honor!
was briefed by the parade commander. Now we're getting into the formal part of the parade. Normally we would have had things like the
Guard
march
of honor!
past around this time. We are not doing that this year.
Shoulder!
So the troops are now being prepared to get into the formal part of the parade, the unfurling of the royal standard. And as I said before, normally we would have a drill display or a march past in slow and quick time
Guard of honor.
leading up to this. But this we're
Royal
not having.
salute.
Now, the unfurling of the royal standard signifies that Her Majesty the Queen is symbolically present on the dais. Therefore, His Excellency the Governor has to vacate the dais to make place for Her Majesty the Queen.
And all other flags flying on parade are to be lowered. So the royal standard is now unfurled, and we expect to see the full God Save the Queen played at this time. And this is the direct symbolic activity in recognizing Her Majesty, not here in person, but her personal flag is being flown on this occasion.
Guard of honor. Shoulder arms.
And if you're familiar with the structure
Guard
of
of
the
honor.
parade, because this is the formal part of the parade,
Arms.
we all remain standing at this point while the royal standard
Guard of honor.
and
Will
the formal
unfix
salute
bayonets.
in terms of the feu de joie
Unfix.
is fired. So the parade commander is now getting the troops prepared
Bayonets.
to fire the feu de joie. So they are removing their bayonets,
Guard of honor.
getting themselves
Shun.
in a safety location.
Guard of honor.
Operation
Officers,
aspect of it.
take post.
So the officers have been asked to take post. That is to say, they give themselves more space between
Guard of honor.
those on parade in preparation
Shoulder
for the firing of the feu de joie. Format as we see it, the governor is to the front.
Guard of honor.
Flag is flanked by the commanding officer of the
Standing.
Defense Force
Load.
and the acting commissioner of police. Then his ADC, parade commander, unit commander, and the troops.
Will fire a feu de joie. Present. Commence.
And there we have the first volley being fired. We should have the first 6 bars now of the national anthem being played.
Reload.
Right, so didn't seem to do that. So we are now preparing the troops for the second volley.
Present. Commence. Guard of honor. Reload.
Again, for those who are watching us, watching the live stream,
Present.
what we are seeing here is what we would call a truncated version of our usual
Commence.
splendors with the parade. so that this brings to the end of the firing of the volley. We still remain standing at that formal part of the parade where the Royal Standard is unfurled. The troops are now unloading
Guard of honor!
of all any shells that are remaining in their weapon as they
Order!
prepare for another formal royal salute.
Guard of honor! Officers, take post! Guard of honor! Will fix bayonets.
The troops are now preparing themselves to
Fix!
do the present arms, but first they must return their bayonets that they would have removed in
Bayonets!
when they're firing the feu de joie. So the parade commanders asked them to fix bayonets, and they are doing so.
Guard of honor! Shun! Guard of honor will remove headdress. Remove headdress.
So those in parade have been asked to remove the headdress as they prepare to give cheers to Her Majesty the Queen.
That is correct.
3 cheers for Her Majesty the Queen. Hip, hip, hip. Hip, hip, hip. Hip, hip, hip. Guard of honor will replace headdress. Replace headdress.
And you will notice, well, for those who are looking, that this part of the drill is only carried out by all the males on parade. Females do not remove their
Guard
headdress
of honor.
on formal military
Shun.
parade.
Guard of honor. Shoulder arms. Guard of honor. Royal salute.
Here we have the troops now.
Present.
Another royal salute to the Royal
Arms.
Standard. And at the same time, the Royal Standard will be lowered and
The Union Jack.
Union Jack
will be
will be raised and unfurled. And pretty much the governor and the senior persons will now take up their position on or around the dais after the playing of the national anthem.
Guard of honor. Shoulder arms. Guard of honor. Order arms. Guard of honor. Standard ace.
And there we go. The troops have now been stand at ease, and those who can sit are allowed to sit at
Stand
this time as
easy.
the formal part regarding the recognition of the Royal Standard has been completed. His Excellency the Governor will now take up a strategic position where normally this is the point in time where he would award medals and other commemorations for various forms of service. On this occasion, I'm told that the names would only be read and a formal event will take place sometime where the recipients will be actually presented with their medals and awards. So we have the list before us, but I think it's probably better for us to wait for them to be announced, and then that we can discuss them But their awards will be given to members of the Royal Montserrat Defence Force. Awards will be given also to members of the Royal Montserrat Police Service and also to the Fire and Rescue Service, as from my understanding. So it really has to do with length of service, and different medals and awards comes with the amount of time of distinguished service within these organizations. So we'll wait to see how the names are going. In the meantime, we are saying, Major, that despite all that has gone on, we do our best to recognize this. As you know, it's Her Majesty's 95th birthday in this 69th year of her reign. And again, we're happy to be here at Salem Park. This year, the scaled-down parade, as I said before, participants mainly from the Royal Montserrat Defence Force, the Royal Montserrat Police Service, and the Montserrat Secondary School Cadet Corps, all with very small contingents of just about 8 persons. The purpose of this small event, of course, as I say, is to mark the official celebration of Her Majesty's birthday. And because of the COVID pandemic, we were not able to host an event last year. And this year, with no cases on island, we got permission to hold, as I said, this scaled-down event. We in Montserrat, like others around the world, we are still getting to understand what we're dealing with in terms of this pandemic, but we not let it put a halt to all the things that we are doing, Major.
It's important to note that the Queen's birthday parade of 1995 was the 18th of June, and exactly 1 month after, July 18th, was when volcanic activity started. And we did have a parade in 1996, 1997, 1998. So in spite of the volcanic activity during those days, actually at the height of volcanic activity, we were still able to celebrate the Queen's birthday activity as per usual.
Okay, we see the governor now stepping back on the So what we'll do after this, we will actually call the names of those who were due to be mentioned. So the governor is stepped on the dais. He's been giving what we refer to as his departing salute.
Guard of honor, shoulder, arms.
And as we were referring to awards,
Guard of honor,
the
arms.
Preparing for the governor's departure, in accordance with the efficiency declaration and medals regulation, the following soldiers will be awarded clasp for over 18 years of service. Acting Warrant Officer Class 2 Calvin Lewis and Corporal Oswald West. And then the Royal Montserrat Police and Fire Service, in accordance with Section of the Long Service Medal Regulations of the Police Act, the following persons cited for awards: deputy for the second class, marking 30 years, over 30 years of service in the police service. We have Deputy Commissioner Charles Thompson, Superintendent Albert Williams, Inspector Utley Rodney, and Inspector Julian Wade.
Now the class represent an addition to the medal that they would have received for earlier service. The class is really an attachment to the medal that they would have received. Depending on how long you serve, you may end up with 2, 3, or 4 class. Unfortunately, I myself were not able to Mr. White, First class at 25 years for things. Second class for the police is at 30 years.
Yes. So we see the first class, the second will also meant to be awarded to Police Constable Kelvin White for over 25 years of service. We return to the parade grounds as we see His Excellency is now preparing for his formal departure. His vehicle has come forward and he's been escorted to the vehicle. Governor Pace and Mrs. Pace as they depart. So this gives you an indication as to the length of what we are talking about. Just about 25 minutes or so into the formal part of this parade, and the governor has arrived, done his thing, and is now leaving. So normally on a regular parade, we probably would not even reach halfway yet.
That is correct, and certainly at the end of the parade, the governor would be going around, meeting and greeting some of the officials who are invited to watch the parade. But this time, this was not done.
Okay. And as His Excellency departs, the Union Jack is now being lowered as he is no longer on the parade grounds. So we are preparing to see the departure of the Honorable Premier in a few minutes. But going back to the awards, on the police side of things, the Long Service Award for 18 years. Remember, the police get their first at 18 years for long service, 18 and over. And we have Sergeant Matenaya Antoine, and we also would have had the Deputy Fire Chief, Acting Vakel Moraine, and Fire Officer Devon Lewis, Fire Officer Sylvina Malone, and Firefighter James Adams. Those are the persons whose names are mentioned, and if things were going, if it wasn't for COVID, would have been presented the award here today on parade. But because of the COVID, their names are only mentioned, and a formal event will be arranged at some point in time where His Excellency will physically give them those awards. Because that's what means a lot to the recipients, being able to formally receive your award in recognition for your years of distinguished service, whether in the Defense Force, the police, or in the Fire and Rescue Service. So, while we're speaking, the Honorable Premier is on his way to this saluting dais. As I did mention before, he is operating with what we'll say is a damaged leg, so that slows him down a bit. We expected that, we were informed of that, and so he's now on the dais to take his departure salute.
General salute. Present arms. Guard of honor, shoulder, arms. Guard of honor, order, arms.
Yeah, we must acknowledge the fact that, as I said, the Honorable Premier has a damaged leg. He's walking with the aid of crutches, but he made an effort this morning to come out, to do his part, and to take his salute in recognition of Her Majesty the Queen's birthday. So here we are at Salem Park. It's just about coming up to 8:30, and the sun is bright and hot. But Major, based on your experience, tell us about some previous places that we would have had this parade since your, drawing on your experience from 1966.
1960 to be exact, not 66.
Correct. My apology.
First, it used to be at Sturge Park, and that for several years, and people looked forward to being at Sturge Park, and more importantly, when the parade would have been completed, the band were able to play some music that really had the crowd, very appreciative. And we do have a following from Sturge Park, to whether it's to the police headquarters or the Montserrat Defense Force headquarters. But it was a great thing to look forward to in the days when we had these parade at Sturge Park. Then during the volcanic crisis, we have had the parade conducted at Gerald's Park, which was very close to the Defense Force headquarters at the time, which we were headquarters at a place called Pastor Peace, which is part of the Gerald's general area. Then we had it at one time at the Braids
in
Primary
column
School.
of route.
And we also had the Remembrance Sunday Parade at the Braids Primary School for several years. Then
Guard of honor.
at one time, and for the last couple of years,
Guard of honor.
had taken
General
place
salute.
at Sailing Park.
Precinct.
For that bit of history. And I remember, for example, when we had the parade on the Braids Primary School grounds, we were so limited in what we can do in terms of the marching, the march pass, and the drill presentations and so on.
I think we omitted the slow march at the time, and we simply marched passing quickly because of the limited space that we had to conduct these maneuvers.
Indeed, but we are now here at Sailing Park, and we see the troops are now preparing. They have just greeted the commanding officer of the Royal Monarch Defence Force with a formal salute, and that indicates that's where he'll now give the parade commander the formal permission to bring the proceedings to a formal end. He has the final say. He gave the permission for the parade to take place. He gave instructions as to who's to do what, and now he's now giving instructions to the parade commander as to what will take place after this. So the parade commander would have had his instructions, and the commissioner and the commander of the Royal Monarch Defence Force is now marching.
Guard of honor. Shoulder arms.
Now, certainly
Move
over the
to
years,
right
we are able
in
to
column of route.
produce or present what we call the precision drill, where the soldiers were able, or the armed bodies were able to conduct pretty smart drills without any orders being given. But it takes lots of practice and re-practice and in order to have that done effectively. I think it started sometime in 1977 when we celebrated 25 years of Her Majesty's and it has continued since and has always been a feature of the parade for years.
Well, indeed, and when you talk about 25 years, we would like to highlight the point that next year will be the platinum jubilee of Her Majesty's reign, meaning that she will be reigning as monarch for 70 years. And I know that there are big plans all around the world for that, if all goes well. Actually, if she remains on the throne until February, I think it is, which will actually be February the 6th. She became the monarch on February the 6th, 1952. But of course, the formal celebrations are in June. So once February the 6th, that's it. She would have gone 70. But the formal celebration will be in June, where we are planning, all the various countries in the realm are planning a big parade for this. I know our colleagues, for example, in Antigua and St. Kitts, have been making inquiries since January as to whether they will be able to come to Montserrat this year. The only thing that they could be told is let's aim for next year and see what happens. Then let's hope that the COVID by then will be something of the past, and that we could go back to having big events.
Another plug we might be able to put in here. I mean, if we're able to achieve the level of vaccination that they say would be safe, if we're able to get that done, even if the COVID is still around, we'll be able to have crowds, bigger crowds at these particular activities. So let's hope that by then we'll have sufficient numbers of our Montserratians actually vaccinated, totally vaccinated, so it would be possible for us to have crowds meeting to take part in these celebrations.
Thank you very much again. Yes, Major. And I wish to at this point point out that the official delegation witnessing this parade on site was very small this year. For example, we had the Premier, we had another minister, I think Minister Charles Kernan, Minister of Education and Health. We had the Deputy Governor. We also have the Attorney General and the presiding judge, Morley, and some staff from the governor's office. Oh, and Honorable Claude Hogan and Paul Lewis were also there. And of course, you know, they had to observe social distancing under the covered area. So at least there were some other formal dignitaries who were invited and were able to make it. We had retired Financial Secretary John Richard Shervington Skerritt, CBE. I have to make that plug there because he's you probably have the second highest award on Ireland. So, you know, I'm glad to see him up and about at this time. So we also have assisting on the grounds some persons from the Red Cross who were meant to look at matters if they were required for first aid.
That is correct.
Right, and we have the training class of the police recruits. They are also not on parade, but they're carrying out official functions. For example, after the parade, they are mandated to inspect the grounds with, so that's a fine-tooth comb, to make sure they pick up all the discarded shells from the firing of the feu de joie, and to make sure that the field is returned properly back to the Ministry of Education for them to continue with the activities. As a matter of fact, I'm told that they'll be having a cricket match here tomorrow. So we do not want any remnant from what was just done to remain on the field that could injure or cause any problem on Ireland.
Players.
Yes. So, Major, just your overviews as to what the attempt that was put on.
Like I say, it's an effort. As you know, at the risk of repeating myself, it's an expression to prove that we're trying to keep hope alive, and we're expecting better days for the future.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. So, to bring this up, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth continues to serve as the reigning monarch of the United Kingdom, which is comprised of England, Scotland, and Wales, and numerous other realms and territories, most of which form the Commonwealth, made up of about 53 sovereign countries. As reigning monarch of the United Kingdom, which extends to all the British overseas territories, to include Montserrat, we do put on events to mark the various celebrations that she would have be going through in terms of her reign, and just I think 2 months ago in May, the passing of a loving husband and the Duke of Edinburgh. We had a symbolic event at the Carsby Gun Battery for that event because of that, and of course we couldn't invite members of the public, so we were able to have photographs and we were able to stream it. I just want to put this point in also that the 10th of this month, which was about 2 days ago, if His Royal Highness was alive, he would have been 100 years old. I think Her Majesty the Queen marked that occasion with the planting of a tree, you know, in his name, and you know, we hope that the younger generation at some point will be able to see the blooming of that tree which is planted in honor of His Royal Highness. So we would have done our part here, and the troops would have performed well. And just after the formal closing of the parade is when the sun started blasting down in its splendor here.
Very much so. I mean, normally, in years past, you will have the sun out in its glory, in which case some of the members of the troop refused to stand upright.
Indeed.
You know,
this was all the instructions they're given to do that. Yes.
So this wasn't the case this time because it was pretty cool during the actual execution of the parade. But now the sun is out in all its glory.
Indeed. So, from Sailing Park, Major Joseph Gabriel Lynch, MBE, former commanding officer of the Royal Montserrat Defence Force. I'm retired Captain Peter W.A. White, OBE, saying good morning and thanks for joining us.